Rewind Sports 60.
Sports 60. From the city of big shoulders, the jewel of the Midwest, comes a sports show that's one of a kind. From iconic players to iconic stadiums to iconic teams, this is my kind of town. Chicago! And the Rewind Sports 60 is my kind of show. From Air Jordan to sweetness to Papa Bear Hallis, this city works hard, but plays even harder. Danny Carlino and Jerry Riles bring you the Rewind Sports 60. Live. The Rewind Sports 60 starts now.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. We're streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're linking. We're hooking it up. We're broadcasting from the illustrious studios of WCPT, 8:20 a.m. in the beautiful, beautiful city of Chicago. This is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60, and we want to say before we get underway, before we get started, we got to say Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there who are celebrating a fabulous day despite the weather. Happy Mother's Day to all of you out there, and stay safe, stay well, and you're well deserved. Don't do anything today. No work, no cooking, no gardening, nothing of that. Well, you can't garden because it's not that type of day for gardening, that's for sure. But enjoy the day. Sit back, kick back. For the next hour, the fastest hour in sports conversation, make sure you check out the Rewind Sports 60. Call up your girlfriend, call up your in-laws, call up anyone and let them know. 8:20 a.m. WCPT. It's the Rewind Sports 60, the fastest hour in the sports conversation here in the greatest city in the world, Chicago, Illinois. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. And let's get right to him, ladies and gentlemen. I love him. He's in studio, no question about it. He's safe, he's sound, and he's here. He is the marvelous one. He's Dan Marver. What's up, Marver?
How you doing, Jerry? It's great to be here. I'm really excited about the show tonight. We're going to have the only two people that weren't interviewed for the Last Dance.
Well, it's not over yet. It's not over yet.
Cartwright and Craig Hodges. Now, it's going to be great, and I'm still hoping for baseball. You know, I actually watched the whole Korean game.
Did you?
Yeah. I wanted to see a baseball game. It was great to see those cardboard fans in the stands. and I noticed the umpires had masks, but the players didn't, except for a couple. So it was it's like for coming attractions. They wanted to see what it might look like, but it still is going to look like an exhibition with no fans to me.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's scary. They had the UFC 249 bout last night, and one of the fighters tested positive for coronavirus, and so unfortunately he didn't get a chance to fight last night. But Dana White had everything going. And there were some interesting bouts that took place, but again, no fans, and it's going to be interesting to see how we move forward, because I understand, Marvelous, in Spain and Italy, I think, the soccer, there are players that tested positive, and so now they have to question that as well. Right. And we know that the NBA is looking forward to trying to get started as early as this week to try to get players back into the gym to start working out. But again, it's Shaquille O'Neal, the former dominant center in the National Basketball Association, now with TNT, the NBA on TNT, in an interview last week on a podcast, said that it's ridiculous to try to get these players back to playing basketball because, hey, maybe the players are protected, but if you got a trainer, if you got one of the camera crews to whose video, any one person, all it takes is just one.
You could have media, and you're going to have locker room people. So it's just scary. And Illinois is still spiking. It's one of the half dozen or so states that's still going upwards, unfortunately.
No, is it? I thought the numbers were going down.
Yeah, I saw something on the news tonight that Illinois and it was Florida, Arizona, and California haven't leveled off quite yet. So,
we're going to have to check the numbers. We had the great Mayor Lori Lightfoot on a couple of weeks back, and I think the latest numbers, I think today is the first day, Marvelous, in a matter of weeks that we have not hit over 100 people or cases of death.
Yeah, well, and
due to coronavirus.
And of course, my theory is the number of reported illnesses is way low because people have it asymptomatically, and they don't, and they're not in the numbers.
Well, I mean, the numbers. Some people question the numbers as well because they're saying that some of the numbers regarding the deaths not necessarily coronavirus related.
Yeah.
But, a speculation that because they died during the pandemic, they're being classified as, coronavirus cases. So that the numbers are, they are what they are.
And it's just scary.
They are what they are, but
so scary.
The important thing is for everyone out there here in the Chicagoland area, in the great state of Illinois, the fabulous land of Lincoln, and of course the United States and around the world. The important thing is to be safe, to be smart, and to do what's right. Have a little bit of respect for yourself, and have a little bit of respect for your fellow man. Be responsible. I understand people have to get to work. I get it. The economy is going down. It's going down rapidly. I understand that. But it's a matter of deciding health over wealth. You got to determine. But if you determine for yourself that wealth is more important than your health, that's a personal decision that you make, but you can't put others in jeopardy.
I know it's a real fine line, because there's going to be, domestic abuse, and there's going to be suicides. I mean, it's all those things are the mental illness side of what's going on are going to be an issue, and that and that's happening too. But it's not reported yet because nobody sees anybody's house.
Well, I mean, there are cases. I mean, domestic abuse, and you don't want any of that to happen. Yeah. There's no question about it. Regardless if there's a pandemic or not, domestic abuse goes on around the world, and you hope that it doesn't spike upward because of this pandemic. You certainly shouldn't put yourself or anyone else in that position if you have to. And I know cabin fever is very tough. I know, being not necessarily locked up, but staying in, it's very, it could get to you. But the important thing for you to do is remain calm.
Sure.
They got, speaking of calms, they have this commercial out. And it said, don't do anything for 15 seconds or don't do anything for 30 seconds. Calm. And at the end of 15 seconds or 30 seconds, it says, download. So it's telling you to calm down. If you find yourself in a situation where you think that you're about to lose it, take 10 seconds. Count backwards. 10, 9, 8. Leave the room. Go for a walk. I don't care if it's raining outside or snowing outside. If the sun is, go for a walk. Go in the backyard. Do whatever you have to do. Eliminate yourself from the situation.
Right.
Because it's going to be a lot worse if you don't.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the latest report today was what you're saying. There was 1,656 new cases in Illinois compared with yesterday, the lowest number since April 21st. So things maybe are turning. I was looking at old stats.
Yeah, you got to say, here's the thing, and I got to say happy Mother's Day to my beautiful wife, Lisa. My daughters, Teresa and Alicia, did a fabulous job. We did some painting. Online painting. It was really fun. It was a good family experience. But the important thing is, I bring her up, is the fact that she and my youngest daughter, Alicia, have been documenting the cases here in the state of Illinois, keeping up with it.
Sure.
And so that's the important thing about it, is these numbers, we have to stay on top of it because they're changing rapidly in 24 hours.
And the benchmark is for it to be 14 days of a decrease before we go to the next phase. So, that's what we're hoping for.
But I just want everyone to remain calm. I guess the state is going to be closed until May 25th, depending on what the numbers are and what the situation calls for. But the important thing is, and my great friend Howard Brookins, 21st Ward Alderman here in Chicago, he said, hey, wait a minute. He goes, you have to think about it. You want to be 6 feet away from the next person around you, or you want to be 6 feet under? It's up to you. It's your decision.
Right.
You've got to make the decision. You want to be 6 feet under, or you want to stand 6 feet away? And social distancing.
Absolutely. And the sad part is people are dying alone. They can't. Nobody can pay their respects. It's the whole thing is terrible.
It certainly is terrible. We don't want to get you guys down 14 minutes after the fastest hour in sports conversation. We want to lift your spirits up. We want to engage you in conversation. Our number is 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Well, The Last Dance, Marvelous.
Last Dance. Well, we got
episodes
7 and 8.
7 and 8 tonight. Kicks off at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, and it's been quite some. Got
Jordan, the baseball player, this week, I think.
Yeah. I'm not. It's interesting. I'm not. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not really looking too much forward to the baseball aspect of Michael Jordan's life, but it was a part of his life, and it affected, obviously, himself and his family and his teammates, but it affected, us as Chicago Bull fans and, the NBA world and globally it affected us. So it's an important part of his life. There's no question about it. But maybe I'll learn something that I didn't know about when he went through all of this and everything. Yeah. But I'm not looking too forward to seeing much about the baseball aspect of his career.
It sounded like at the end of the last episode they were emphasizing burnout.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because what Michael went through as far as burnout is concerned, he said his body was almost, to the complete exhaustion, but his mind was totally gone. Based on what the information, what they said, his mind was just totally gone, having to deal with all the pressure. And of course, he had his dad, James Jordan, speak on his behalf regarding the gambling and everything that took place. So, and the media, I can tell you, they went after him.
Right, and then of course he lost his dad in that summer.
Yeah, he certainly did. I don't know if they're going to touch on that tonight. In these episodes, but Michael got to the brink where he just couldn't deal with it, and he almost had to lock himself in isolation or quarantine because the media was, and Chicago media, I mean, I know guys, very, very tough. Very, very tough, and they wanted to get to the the information, and unfortunately there are some guys that just wanted to see this guy fall.
Sure.
There are guys out there in the media who wanted to see the great Michael Jordan fall because of the success, and to be at the top of the mountain the way that he was. There were certainly people gunning for him to try to knock him off of that pedestal. And he had to leave the game, obviously, as you talked about, the untimely death of his dad that they called a carjacking that took place. But again, he made his comeback, the second three-peat, and the rest is history. But we're going to go out to our TR60 hotline and welcome on the Rewind Sports 60, former teammate of the greatest of all time, that, of course, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. He's on our TR60 hotline. He played with the New York Knicks back in the day, and we weren't really fans of this guy because he played for that team. That team, they gave our Bulls, all they can handle as well. The Knicks were, we talk about the Detroit Pistons and how physical they were. Well, that New York Knicks basketball team back then, and you guys have seen it in this docuseries, they played Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls, Scottie Pippen, those guys, very, very tough, very, very hard, very, very difficult series. And I got to give credit to Jerry Krause. He wised up and said, hey, you know what? We need somebody in the middle to help our guy, MJ, Michael Jordan. And lo and behold, we landed him. He's on our TR60 hotline right now. He is former Chicago Bull, former coach. He is Bill Cartwright, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60 on this Mother's Day. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm out here in San Francisco cruising.
You're out in San Francisco cruising?
Well, I'm driving my car.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It's interesting you said that. Now, I correct me if I'm wrong, but this was a few years ago. I live out in the northern suburbs, and I thought I saw you. Correct me if I'm wrong. It could have been a drop-top Excalibur, a vintage car vehicle, and I thought it was you. I blew the horn at you when I was driving by. Driving down Dundee Road in the northern suburbs a few years ago, outside of Chicago. Does that sound accurate?
Excalibur?
Well, some type of vintage car.
Yeah, well, I can see you're not a vintage guy. Actually, I do have a 57 Chevy Bel Air. That perhaps could be it. But you're obviously not a car guy, because there's a big difference between like Delaware and a Bel Air.
Yeah, there's no question about it. There is a big difference, but I can be honest with you. I was probably more in awe of the fact that I saw Bill Cartwright driving down Dundee Road in the northern suburbs with a drop top, as opposed to checking out the vehicle that he was in, because you turned the corner just as I spotted you. So forgive me for not recognizing the vehicle that you were driving in, but I certainly believe that was you driving it.
Well, there's no worries. You know, if you're a car guy, you would notice the car first.
You got it, brother. You got it.
That's definitely okay.
There you go. I appreciate it. If it wasn't a Mercedes, then I kind of didn't pay too much attention to it. Hey, Bill, thank you so much for taking some time out on this Mother's Day to join us. We really appreciate it. And, of course, we certainly, myself, along with the marvelous one, Dan Marver, we want to we invited you on because everyone, especially on Sunday evenings for the past 3 weeks or whatever, we've been talking about The Last Dance and the Dynasty Chicago Bulls. And, of course, you were part of the Dynasty in the 90s. You guys were rock stars. You were the Beatles, and you owned the world. And, of course, you were a key figure as far as winning some of those championships. What was it like during that time in the 90s when you played in New York, the Big Apple? And the deal was made for you to come and play here in Chicago with, some of us probably believe he was the greatest of all time, even back then. But what was your feelings and your thoughts on coming to the Chicago Bulls to help win some championships?
Well, basically, it was, I came to Chicago in '88. So I was there when Doug Collins was the head coach. Mm-hmm. We had a young Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant. Michael was there, of course, but just when the core of the team got together. So just like all NBA teams, it was tough. It was tough to bring ourselves together. It was tough to be able to find ourselves, be able to play together. A year later, we ended up getting Phil Jackson as a coach and being incorporated to Tex Winter's offense. So I was there right from the beginning, and just like all teams who are really good on the verge of winning, that education with the teams you're talking about, with the Detroit Pistons, gave us a foundation, gave us what we needed to do to improve and be a championship team. So it was tough. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of chemistry, a lot of guys involved. Including Jerry Krause, guys like Jimmy Stack, guys like Clarence Gaines, their assistants, from our coaching staff. It was just a lot of work. So it didn't happen overnight, but somehow we gradually got there.
Bill Cartwright joining us on our Rewind Sports 60 TR60 hotline, from joining the Bulls in '88 all the way to '94, was with the New York Knicks back in '79 and '88. And yeah, we certainly remember those times. And for those people who are probably too young to remember, the NBA was a different type of game, definitely compared to what we see today. But it was kind of like piggybacking off of the era of the 70s, because we remember, the great late Norm Van Leer and how physical he played along with Jerry Sloan and in the backcourt there. It kind of, echoed what Chicago represented. But then this Michael Jordan character comes into Chicago. He learns the mentality. And here's the deal, Bill. Chicago, as you well know, is known as, the gangster town, Al Capone. And I hate it, but I understand it. And I think when Jordan came to town, he felt that vibe from the Chicago people, from the Chicago fans, and it was pretty much right up his alley. So when we played the New York Knicks, when we played the Detroit Pistons, we weren't necessarily on the same level, but we brought this gangster attitude, or Michael Jordan brought the gangster attitude to the game of the NBA. Did you sense any of that in playing with him when you came to this team in '88?
I'm not really sure of the gangster attitude, But what I did really see was that because of the style of play that we had, it was a fun type of basketball. Obviously, we had the best player in the league. We had a young Scottie Pippen. We had guys like B.J. Armstrong, Will Purdue, Stacey King, Scott Wayne. So we had a lot of young guys who were good in their time. So we played a fun style of basketball. I feel like so we gave the city something to look at, something to be proud of. And the athletes, as you know, because of the '85 Bears, Chicago loves athletes. So we were able to just maintain that, not only winning our first championship, but winning 3 straight championships. So I think it was more what the city represented, and it was positive. And you're right, it wasn't a gangster type of a situation where it was bang, bang, shoot 'em up. It was something to be proud of. It was guys are representing the city and representing it the right way. So it was great.
The reason I use the description or example as far as the gangster mentality is concerned, and we'll get into this conversation, if you feel comfortable with it, is the fact that the bad boys, the Detroit Pistons and Isiah Thomas, who was the ringleader, it's my opinion that back during the day, and you can correct me, but it's my opinion that David Stern kind of, in the league, wanted a type of bad boy image. Detroit took on that persona, and they wanted to show everyone around the league that in order to win, you had to come through them. And with the rules the way that they were back then, they were going to do anything and everything they could do and get away with to win the championships. And so I think Isiah Thomas, growing up on the west side here in Chicago, and if people are familiar with the west side of Chicago, and I'd say Al Capone, but if you're familiar with the west side of Chicago, West Siders don't take any stuff from anybody. And that helped Isiah, that mentality, in my opinion, helped him elevate to who he is today as far as the type of aggressive ball player he was and the type of aggressive business person he was. But I think back then, he kind of took it personally and said, hey, you know what? I'm Chicago. I'm the baddest dude on the block, and I'm going to knock your block off. And then when this kid, Michael Jordan, came in, he said, hey, you don't know what Chicago is about. I may play in Detroit, but this is still my house. And I think that kind of fueled the battle that these two guys still have today. Am I on base or I kind of off when I make that statement?
Well, I think at that point in time, now let's understand, the Pistons it took 2 years for them to overcome the Boston Celtics, who had their particular style of play. The Pistons, when they played, their style of play was very aggressive. Now, they would take a hard foul. They would get up on you, they'd push you, and do what some consider to be not very good. And that's not what you do as a basketball team. But let's face it, if the Detroit Pistons couldn't play that style of basketball, they couldn't win. And also, let's face this fact, the Detroit Pistons were good. The Detroit Pistons were a scoring team. They were a great scoring team. So while we had our 2 years of trying to get past them, those guys were better than us. They were a veteran team. They had already been through the battles that we were going to go through. And regardless of the fact that they beat the tar out of us for 2 years, thank God for that, because that got us ready to win championships. So I never had any ill feelings for those guys. You have to understand who they are, and that's who they are. So what we had to do, and Phil said this at the start of the year, hey, look, we got to bend and not break. And that's what happened. That's what happened for us. And we developed that year our style of play. Our style of play is not like them. So we have to develop who we are. We're going to move the ball, push the ball up the floor. We're going to play great defense, and we're going to play how we play. And that's what happened, is that we found our game to our greatest extent of who we were.
Hey, Bill, this is Dan Marver. I'm in the studio here with Jerry. How you doing? Can you hear me?
No, great.
Okay, good. I was looking at your bio. Very impressive that you're the leading all-time scorer with the San Francisco Dons. And there was a fellow named Bill Russell that played there, wasn't there? But in any event, after you left the Bulls and spent the year with the Sonics, you came back as a Bulls coach. I was just wondering. I mean, you had 2 more championships as a coach, right, with the Bulls?
Yes.
Yeah, and so you were there.
Yes, that is correct.
You were there for the Last Dance. So 22 years later, I've asked this question to a lot of people. I mean, I almost thought that it was like not really going to happen, the breakup. I thought Jackson, 82-0, doesn't matter. It seemed like Reinsdorf should have stepped in or something at the time. I just didn't understand it. I still am baffled to this day.
Well, look, and this is the interesting thing that happened, is that none of us own the Chicago Bulls. There's only one guy that owns that team, and there's only one guy that makes the ultimate final decision. So our GM, Jerry Krause, he can make a lot of recommendations, but I can promise you he makes no decisions. So as this goes on, and you understand from this last dance, there's got to be a good guy and bad guy, and I guess Jerry Krause, I guess he's the bad guy. So interesting.
Yeah, I'm not the bad guy. I'm the real guy.
The real guy, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting. This last dance, I think for the hardcore Bull fans, they'll enjoy it. They'll enjoy watching it. They'll be able to have access to the planes and the practices and conversations. I'm hoping that it's going to be viewed in what it should be. Extraordinarily positive, extraordinarily special, and something that may never happen again, and not in this soap opera, Kardashian style of thing that's going on right now. So, it's going to be interesting, especially since there's nothing to do right now.
Yeah.
And, I'll take it in tonight, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we appreciated you being safe and everything, Bill.
Oh, extraordinarily safe. And I want to say this. Thanks to my friend Jerry Thomas for calling you guys and talking to Jerry. So, awesome guy. So, thank you for that.
Real quick before we let you go, and we do appreciate you taking your time on this Mother's Day to join us. A lot of people didn't know, if they weren't covering the team, if they didn't play with Michael, they were fans, they followed. But we get an opportunity through The Last Dance to look inside of practice and see what Michael Jordan was like. They pull the curtains back, so to speak, and it shows, what he was like in practice. We know about the scuffle that he got into with Will Perdue. We know about the punch to Steve Kerr. Real quick, what was it like practicing with Michael Jordan day in and day out during the season?
Well, I'll say this, is that, they're seeing what they see. They're wanting to see on TV. I mean, every day is not the same. You have a scuffle every day. Some days there's a scuffle and there's other guys involved. That's just playing basketball. So for us, it's no big deal. It's just playing. We're practicing, working hard. So, this is a little soap opera-ish. I don't know what the right word is, but just put it this way: it wasn't an everyday occurrence. It is what it is. This is a show, so just enjoy the show,
right?
For what it is.
Well, it's unfortunate because I've seen some there are haters out there all the time, as you well know. There are people out there that are trying to knock everybody off their pedestal once they rise up to that. And it's interesting, some of the reports and some of the things that I've heard, during the past few weeks regarding The Last Dance, where, people were, well, Michael Jordan was this, or he did that, and he did this and that and the other. And I go, first of all, for him to, we say it's a great life, but, to be in the bubble the way that he is, everybody's got a breaking point here and there, but Michael is the way that he is and was the way that he was because, and he said it, I have a competitiveness problem. That's my problem. Gambling enough, he competes against everything. Without that nature of competition, the Bulls don't have 6 championships, do they?
Well, not with him. No, we don't. But at least what you like to say about Michael is that he's responsible for himself, and whatever happens, happens. So.
Bill? I'm sorry, Bill, you there? Yeah, we had a little we had some gremlins get in our technical situation. We didn't get a chance to hear your last comment. Can you repeat, please?
Well, I said the bottom line is that, look, Michael in his interviews, he's claiming responsibility for himself. That's all you can do. You can't blame anybody else. This is who you are, and good or bad, you go from there. So, whether he wants to do something political, whether not, whether he wants to do something for somebody else or not, he's responsible for himself. So he's not going away from that, and that's for somebody else to judge. But that's his life, and you can do what you want to do. For us, for Bulls fans, you should just appreciate it because it was a special time. It was a special time. We had special people. We had special coaches. We had special administrators. We had special players. So hopefully those days will come again. I don't know if it will, but hopefully it will. Because it was definitely a special time.
Yeah, it certainly was a special time, and we love to continue to talk shop with you and pick your brain because there's a lot much more that we can definitely talk with you about, especially with the current Bulls situation and what's going on there. But we hope this is not the last time we get an opportunity to chat with you on the Rewind Sports 60. We're going to let you go. Get ready for the last dance, and if it's okay with you, we'd love to reach out with you and talk with you more about the NBA season and the pandemic that we're going through, okay?
You can reach out anytime. I'd be very curious of your thoughts. Basketball's changed a lot now. That's a curious conversation.
Oh, it certainly is, and we certainly will be picking your brain. And again, thank you so very much for taking time to join us, Bill. We appreciate you.
Okay, guys, enjoy.
Be safe.
Take care, Bill.
We'll talk to you. That's the great Bill Cartwright joining us on the Rewind Sports 60. I got to apologize for the technical issue there, Marvelous, but it was good that he took some time out to join us. We're going to go commercial free because we don't want you to go anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to him.
It's like PBS, yeah.
We were hoping to see. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Just like PBS, but we won't have the people calling in to support us.
If you have any comments on Bill Cartwright joining us on the Rewind Sports 60, feel free to give us a call. Our number is 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT. I didn't think that I was like the bad guy of the bunch here, Marvelous. I think I was just trying to ask the question that many people out there wanted to hear the answers to.
You mean about the gangster mentality?
Well, I here John Sally on a interview said that this is maybe in 2017 or 2018. He said the reason Isiah Thomas had a beef, an issue with Michael Jordan is because when he was playing with Detroit, that he came home and his nephew was wearing a Bulls 23 jersey. And Isiah was pissed. So what the hell are you wearing that for? And I think his nephew or whatever is got to say, well, it's Michael Jordan. He's Chicago. It's like, what? I'm Chicago. Well, no, you actually play in Detroit. And Isiah, this is what John Sally said. And Isiah was irate because Isiah felt, hey, I'm Chicago. This is my town. Nobody's coming in here gangstering me.
Yeah.
Even if I'm playing in Detroit.
Right.
Now, this is what John Sally said.
Yeah. Well, even Isiah, he was hardened up in college. He played for Bobby Knight.
Yeah. Well, there was a story. Isiah's got his book out, came out a few years ago. When Bobby Knight came to recruit Isiah Thomas on the west side, Bobby Knight, the head coach of Indiana, came in, and supposedly Isiah Thomas' brother and Bobby got into it. Mm-hmm. And Bobby Knight, in so many words, told him, sit your ass down on the west side in Chicago in Isiah Thomas's house. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah, he was going to actually come and play with Aguirre at one point at DePaul.
Well, a lot of people wanted that to happen because Mark Aguirre at Westinghouse and, of course, Isiah Thomas with St. Joe's, that was one of the biggest high school basketball games ever played in the city. And a lot of people were hoping that, those two would team up and play for DePaul. But, of course, it did not happen. But one thing that happened, this guy, this probably goes down as the all-time three-point leading scorer in NBA All-Star history. I think he had like 19 consecutive threes or something like that. 24 of 27 shots or something like that. He's a homegrown he's from the Chicagoland area, played with your Chicago Bulls. He's on our TR60 hotline, ladies and gentlemen. You love him. He's the fabulous. He's the sensational. He is my man. He's Craig Hodges on our hotline. Craig, how are you? Welcome to the Rewind Sports 60, my man.
I appreciate you, brother. Peace and blessings to you and your listening audience during this crazy time, man. Hope all is well.
Thank you so very much. And I think everybody is trying to stay as safe and well as they possibly can. This is the fastest hour in sports conversation, Craig. You and I have talked many times in the past few years. We don't have much time to talk about so much that's going on, but we appreciate you taking your time on the Mother's Day to join us on our show to talk Last Dance, man. And, I believe you've been making your media rounds the past couple of days or whatever regarding your comment that you made. And I got to tell you this. I actually agree with what you said regarding Michael Jordan's comment, I think in episode 3, about the cocaine circus. Because when I heard Michael Jordan, he came into the league and he said he went to the hotel, he was in a hotel when he went to knock on one of the players' door and he heard all this commotion going on and half the team was in there partying. I looked over to my wife and I said, Lise, why is he throwing all these guys under the bus? I swear to you, I said, why is he throwing them under the bus? I go, this is how many years ago, but you ain't got to call these cats out and tell everybody what they're doing. I gotta agree with you on that, man.
Yeah, and for me, it's one of those things where you have young people are excited about the game, and family members of people probably looking forward to watching their loved one who played with Michael, watching this, looking forward to watching this documentary, and then it winds up being, as opposed to it being an entertainment, it turns out to be something that's an inquisition of the uncle or dad who played on the team with MJ. So, it was kind of, I thought he could have did something a little more diplomatic. I thought he could have said players that during that period of time had a lot of fun and, but they came and played hard. It was a way of doing it that he didn't have to throw people under the bus, man.
Yeah, well, they left a lot of tape on the floor. This is what are we just saying? There's a lot of stuff that didn't make it to this docuseries, but I was just surprised. But what I do like the fact that Mike is doing in this docuseries, in my opinion, from a spectator's perspective, I think that he's being real. I think that he's, opening up himself to something that he normally hadn't done over the years. So I like that side of Michael to show people, hey, I'm just as real as, any of you guys. I just happen to be this guy that's very talented and had the success. So I do like that aspect of what he's presenting and unveiling in this docuseries.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and like you say, to a degree, it's cool that you get some eye-opening facts and that kind of thing. But at the same time, I feel like at this point in his life and career, I don't, money isn't the issue. I just wonder what is the motivation behind how you throwing people under the bus, man, and just how, like you said, you knew some people aren't going to like you after it's over. I don't know if it's so much from your openness or if it's from you throwing people under the bus from your openness. So to me, it's just a matter of saying, at this point in time, there's a lot of other things that need to be taken care of. And I remind people that this is entertainment. and we have a lot of things going on within the world and within our communities that we have to, get solutions to, and that's where my mind is. So I'm watching it in somewhat a critique mode, but always with the eye of it being entertainment and commerce involved.
Hey, Craig, this is Dan Marver. I'm in the studio with Jerry. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Great. I loved your book, Long Shot, The Triumph and Struggles of an NBA Freedom Fighter. A lot of good stuff in there. Yeah. Including, of course, the famous White House visit and a number of other things. But I wanted to ask you, being a player and then looking at it, I ask everybody this, and 22 years later, I tell everybody, I just can't believe that it really happened, that they broke the team up. And the last dance you're going to see, it didn't matter if Jackson went 82-0, Krause said. How can that be? That doesn't make any sense to me.
And then for me, the way I'm looking at this thing is, it's dead man tells no tale, man. So when we look at how much he's being put on Jerry Krause as him being, being the person that did or whatever, and some of that I'm like, how can the general manager outweigh owner? So if the Bulls go 82-0, how could Jerry Reinsdorf break it up? That's what I'm looking at more than Jerry Krause.
Well, it's interesting because allegedly, Jerry said, Jerry Reinsdorf supported Jerry Krause, obviously, and said, most of these players, after winning the title, the second three-peat, were on their last leg. And he felt, that was probably the best time to dismantle and break things up because of the grind over, just winning one championship is a grind in its right. And to come back and win a second three-peat, he felt that most of the players on the team that, they didn't have enough left in the tank. So it wasn't a bad business move to make and breaking up the team.
Yeah, and I look at it, I understand where he's coming from, try to get the best bang for your buck, let's have a firehouse sale or whatever you want to call it. But for me, and looking at it, when you understand how to win, you understand how to win, and that you have enough veteran players who have enough left in the tank that you can start to shovel in guys to be able to maintain, the solidarity of a unit that can go out and win. And once again, he rolled the dice, he broke the team up, and haven't won anything since. So there's kudos to breaking up the squad, I guess.
So Craig, I know that there was some feelings after you left the Bulls that you were blackballed. What was that all about?
Well, the fact that you can leave the game and be a world champion 2 times over, a consecutive 3-point title, won it 3 times in a row, and have that under your belt, and you're only 32 years of age, and no one would even talk to you. So for me, that was, and then with, late Tex Wonder told me that, he had called every team on my behalf, and the only time in his career when teams didn't call him back to see the person, see what he was talking about as far as the player was concerned. And when he saw that, he told me it was time for me to start coaching.
It's interesting. 2-time NBA champion in 91-92, 3-time NBA three-point champion 90-92. Shot over almost 6,000 points, 563 percent from the field, 40% from three-point land. You were more or less the Colin Kaepernick of that era. And I know a little bit of history about, Craig Hodges and who you are as a person off the court. But do you think during that time that, and any time it's important, but do you think during that time when you made the statement, both physically in your attire going to the White House and verbally, because you approached Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson leading up to the championship to say, we need to make a stance. Did you ever think, hey, maybe I need to step back from this, evaluate it, and pick a different time to make my statement?
And that's the thing, man, is that to whom much is given, much is required. And when we get on the professional level, I think we've been blessed to be able to do what we can for less fortunate people, man. So for me, it was a no-brainer. And as far as, letting people know what's going on with the struggle of poor people of color. And that's what the letter was about. When I went to the White House, it wasn't about trying to embarrass anybody or trying to that the dashiki was a point of protest. That not at all. It was, this is the garment that I'm supposed to wear as a descendant of African people when we go to our regal events, and that was the most important event I've ever went to in my life. And I wanted to make sure that at that time that I was going to be able to represent, that portion of our world that's not being, represented, man. And, being able to do it after winning the championship was a great thing. So for me, it was one of those things that it had to be done. But at the same time, I realized afterwards that it was going to be some repercussions from it. And at the same time, it was going to be something that my family was going to have to struggle through. And at the point of time that I was doing it, I didn't consider that because I felt like my stats and everything else was well enough for me to get another job.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. We're on with the great Craig Hodges, former Chicago Bull basketball player, three-point shooting champion, homegrown product of Chicago. That's the one thing I think that many people, and maybe is that what shied some of the players or some of your teammates away from you, is the fact that, they may privately feel and agree with what you stand for, but to jeopardize their reputation and to jeopardize their livelihood, they say they probably step back and say, "Hey, man, you got to handle this on your own."
Right, and you look at that, and once again, the conversations that I would speak of publicly, players spoke of openly in the locker room and other places, but they wouldn't do it openly to the public. So it's one of those things that it happens, man. And for me, and looking back, I feel blessed to be able to have carried the mantle during that period of time of when it wasn't social media, it wasn't popular, it wasn't an event, so to speak. So it was one of those things that was necessary during that period of time so that, keep the movement going, man, until the next person or persons can pick it up. And that's where we are right now. Everybody has to pull their part, man.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, I hope that, young folks listening in and can learn a little bit more about who you are as a man and who we are as a people and start doing some good things, some smart things, and doing the right thing. Before we let you go, and we really appreciate you taking time out on this Mother's Day to join us, brother. We really appreciate you and we support you 100%. My question, we had Bill Cartwright on, and we talked about the Last Dance and, of course, the feud between Michael Jordan and Isiah Thomas. And I don't know if you heard me when we were talking. I said I believe one reason there's a grudge between Isiah Thomas and Michael Jordan is the fact that Isiah, we Chicagoans, man, we love this city, and a lot of us will die, because of what's going on. Isiah Thomas grew up on the roughest part of the city, that of course the West Side, and Michael Jordan came in here and he became, the beloved figure. And I don't know, man, did Isiah take a little bit of offense and say, "Hey, wait a minute, this is my town. I'm the basketball god in Chicago. I earned my stripes on the West Side, man. You can't come in here and gangster this town because this is my town, and I don't care if I'm in Detroit or not."
Yeah, Isiah, it's one of those things where, like you said, Isiah from the West Side, and then MJ being somewhat of a carpetbagger coming to take over the West Side, and the people in Chicago embraced MJ right off the plane, man. So it's one of those things where it was going to be a public rivalry for who has the most sentiment and who has the most love coming from Chicago. So I could see Isiah being somewhat salty, but he had, in all honesty, he understood. I'm sure he understood the fact that, the rivalry between us and Detroit was so heated, and him being on the Detroit team, that it was going to carry some weight with the Chicago fan and the Chicago populace. So he understands the rabid fans that Chicagoans are. So he just has to come in and get in when he fits in after his career is over, and I think the people of Chicago have accepted him back pretty well.
Yeah, we love Isiah, we love Chicago, but the number one question is, the big question is, and we saw in the Docuseries, and Michael's like, "Hey, it wasn't on me." Can you set the record straight? Why was not Isiah Thomas not on the '92 Dream Team, in Craig Hodges' opinion?
Right. In my opinion, it was just a matter of the politics of the game at the time. MJ being who MJ was to the game and to commerce worldwide, that he was going to have somewhat of a say. Now, whether or not he said something or Magic or somebody else, that's that multi-millionaire circle that I wasn't in, man. So some of them conversations I wasn't privy to. But from the outside looking in, you something was skewed against Isiah when you look in terms of his body of work over his career. There's no reason that he shouldn't have been on that dream team, even to the point where I don't know how you can put Christian Laettner on there, even though that y'all want to put that little college vibration in there like we got amateurs still. This is a pro thing, man. Isiah should have been on it.
Well, they put Christian Laettner on over, I believe, Shaquille O'Neal.
And even that, I'm just saying, it's some things that it is what it is, man. The politics of the game can be ugly sometimes, and when it gets skewed to a point where you can see obvious things go down, obvious to the point where Isiah should have been on the team, obvious to the point where I should have been signed after we won 2 championships. So there are certain things in the politics of sport that are ugly, but if you look at it and see it for what it is, you can see through it.
Yeah, you certainly can.
Hey Greg, what are you up to now? I see that your old school, Rich East, is closing down after this year.
Yeah, man. What's so crazy, man, is that my elementary school was torn down. My junior high school, they just tore down and getting ready to rebuild another one. My high school is now closed. I'm like, Long Beach, watch out, man. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't understand it. And Park 4 is a crazy thing. Rich East is in the center of Park 4. Yeah. And with it being gone, man, it's going to be something to see how, the community really reacts to that, man.
Yeah. Long Beach better look out, huh?
Yeah, that's what he said. Hey, Craig.
It's yes.
No, hey, it's the fastest hour in sports conversation, brother. We got to let you go, but we certainly don't want this to be the last time. And, of course, it won't be the last time. Any closing remarks before we say goodbye?
Well, I want to thank everybody for their support, and I have a documentary and a feature film coming out from the people who produced the show Black Mirror from Britain. So there's some good stuff coming up, man. I want to thank you for your support, and everybody be healthy and safe during this period of time, please.
Well, we didn't get a chance to talk about the NBA. Thank you so very much with this pandemic and everything, but we'll certainly invite you back real soon to catch up on some other things. Okay, Craig?
Peace.
Stay safe and well, brother. We appreciate you. Greg Hodges joining us on our TR60 hotline, and he said, hey, Isiah should have been on the team. I still believe, Marvelous.
Yeah.
It's that Chicago thing coming out of Isiah. But, hey, you know what? It is what it is, the politics involved, and, the last dance. Any last words before we say goodbye?
No. Just enjoy that Korean baseball.
Enjoy it, folks. Keep it locked in. If you miss any portion of the Rewind Sports 60 on WCPT 820 AM, make sure you check us out on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, all the social media platforms. On behalf of the Marvelous One, Dan Marver, I'm Jerry Riles. Thanks to our producer, Devin Tingle, and, of course, our guest, the great Bill Cartwright, former Bulls, former Chicago Bulls coach and player, and, of course, Craig Hodges. Gabe Salgado, TR60 Scoreboard Update. Take it away, buddy. Take care, everybody.
TR60 Sports Update
is sponsored by the Monster Education Foundation. We've reached the final 4 episodes of ESPN's The Last Dance, and tonight episodes 7 and 8 will explore Michael Jordan's first retirement and his 1994 stint with the White Sox. Multiple reports say that Major League Baseball will present an official plan to begin the 2020 season to league owners tomorrow. Bears linebacker Joel Ibuniwe says that his mother's work as a nurse inspires him to pursue a post-football career in medicine. Blackhawks forward Dylan Strome, along with his mother and brother, were featured on a special Mother's Day edition of the NHL's Hockey at Home internet series earlier today, and the Associated Press reports that the rescheduled French Open tennis tournament, which is one of the 4 majors, could be held without fans present. This update is sponsored by the Monster Education Foundation, MEF, empowering the next generation of leaders. Go to monstereducationfoundation.org to learn more. I'm Gabe Salgado, wishing a happy, safe, and blessed Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and you're listening to the Rewind Sports 60 on WCPT 820, Chicago.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60. TheRewindSports60.com.
Take me out to the ball game, Hall of Famer Andre Dawson.
All right. Let's hear it from the greatest fans ever. On three. 1, 2, 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back Forest Root. Root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Hey, let's get some runs. Thank you.
The Rewind Sports 60.
Still there. Oh.